Okay, moving on to our next panel, which is Redefining India Through Technology. India has emerged as a global technology powerhouse driven by rapid digital transformation, innovation, and a thriving startup ecosystem. This panel brings together distinguished leaders from the technology industry to discuss India's digital journey, the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead, and the country's role in shaping the future of technology. Introducing our speakers for today, first we have Ghosh Kurian. George joined NetApp, which is one of the largest data infrastructure companies, in 2011, bringing his passion and relentless focus on execution to his leadership roles at NetApp. He was named the CEO in June 2015. Before that, George was Senior Vice President of the Data ONTAP Group, overseeing development of the Data ONTAP operating system. He's also an independent director on the board of global health services company Cigna Corporation. Next, we have Debjani Ghosh, who's the president at NASSCOM. A veteran of the technology industry, she's the 5th president of NASSCOM and the first woman at the helm in the 3-decade history. In January 2018, she was facilitated by the President of India under the First Ladies Program, which honors exceptional women pioneers in their respective fields. Next, we have Mathew Oommen, who's the president of Reliance and leads Jio's network strategy and service platforms, enabling India's digital transformation to affordable and scalable broadband connectivity across consumer and business. Mr. Oommen has been a part of Jio since the beginning of its ambitious greenfield all-IP network build. And last but not the least, we have Chinmay Pandit, who is also a Kellogg alum and is the board member and president of KPIT Americas. He heads the commercial vehicle vertical of KPIT globally. He's responsible for the overall strategy and growth plan of the geography. It is under Chinmay Pandit's leadership that KPIT brought to India one of the first hybrid plug-in technology vehicles in the industry, launched by Honorable PM Modi in New Delhi. And this panel will be moderated by Professor Mohanbir Sani, who's also been our biggest supporter and faculty advisor throughout this conference. Handing it out to you, sir.
Thank you. Wow, we have such a wealth of expertise in the room. And I don't know where we get these numbers, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, but, you know. And by the way, now India has been repositioned as Bharat, I noticed, which is also interesting. So whatever 0.0 there is some increment that is taking place that is discontinuous. And Debjani, probably we should begin with you, since you represent the association of industry that really has shepherded and fathered India's progression through. NASSCOM is very unique in the role that it has played initially in the software industry, then business process outsourcing and so on. So tell us where we have come from and where we are headed in the context of India being a technology powerhouse.
First of all, thank you so much for having us here. Really, really great. Enjoyed the morning sessions. The power of, the story of NASSCOM, what inspired me to take on this role was it got started by the industry leaders who came together many years back when the total tech industry in India was 50 million.
Wow.
And people like Narayan Murthy, Mr. Kohli, FC Kohli, Harish Mehta, and so many of them, they came together and they said, we believe that we can absolutely become global superpowers, but we cannot do it alone. We can do it if all of us decide to come together and work together to make it happen. And that was the origin of NASSCOM. So that's how NASSCOM started. And it's been a fantastic journey. If you think about it, the first 100 billion took us 30 years, nearly 30 years. The next 100 billion happened in around a little less than 15 years. And assuming nothing goes wrong, the third 100 billion, we think, will happen in less than 10 years. It'll happen in around 5 years. Today, it's a 254 billion industry, employing over 5 million people. I'm tremendously proud that 38% of that are women. It's one of the most diverse industries in the world. Today, if you think about it, if you think about innovation, India is home to over 1,600 of Fortune 500 companies that are doing all their cutting edge innovation in India. That entire, what we used to call GCC, has now shifted from back-end service to innovation, to driving innovation, and all of them are in India. All the innovation is being powered out of India. We have amazing companies like KPIT right here that are pretty much pushing the boundaries on innovation better than anyone else, and of course Geo. There's just so much. I mean, the boldness, I think, the boldness of our aspirations, the boldness of our ambition is what's new about India. And as NASSCOM, I honestly believe that if not now, sometime very near in the near future, the I in innovation is going to stand for India. If you are going to, think about innovation, think about world-class products getting developed, think about all the large language models getting developed. Who's developing them? Who's developing them? Most of them are Indians, whether they're in India or they're outside India, but India is having a huge role in driving the innovation for the world.
So Mathew, we're going to go to you next because Mathew and I have been on a journey together at Geo. It's, you can't do digital transformation without infrastructure, without the rails, right? So tell us, for the benefit of the audience, the story of how this revolution happened in the wireless and wired realm and what's next.
Well, thank you, Professor Mohinbir. Like he said, have had the pleasure of having him on the board with me and Mukesh and a couple of others for the last few years, and it's always a privilege to hear him and a bigger privilege to be here today. Thank you. And I've been associated with Reliance for over 22, 23 years. In between, for a short span, I was at Sprint as their CTO. And I can tell you, as Debjani just said, India is today the beacon for the world for economic growth. And that is driven by, I sincerely believe, the digital innovation. And it's all of us, whether it's the tech industry, 5G industry, telecom industry, that has been enabling this transformation and growth. And when you look at India, a nation that has built the largest and most accessible digital public infrastructure anywhere on the planet. I mean, using Aadhaar, UPI, I'm not, the uniform payments interface. And if you look at it, that happened along with what we call as pervasive and affordable connectivity. That's what made inclusivity and sustainability in India. So the world, we like to use the pre-geo world and the post-geo world. Debjani mentioned 100 million, and I think that's a big number for us, and I'll explain why. Because when we came into the market, there were 13 other operators, and we were the 14th player. Every analyst in the world, the banker in the world, told us it's the biggest blunder that you guys are becoming the 14th operator of a nation. And Mukesh, our chairman, was called the petro-crazy innovator, who has no fundamentals of how telecom industry works. Why? Because 98% of the revenue of the 13 operators was voice. And what we thought, let's give voice for free. And we fundamentally, I would say, did an unorthodox model. And the 100 million is important because our chairman in August of 2016 made a statement, I will have 100 million users in my first year of operation. And me and Sanjay, who was our managing director till recently, was sitting next to each other when Mukesh made that statement, and we didn't know he was going to make that statement, honestly. Sanjay asked me, did he say 100? I think I heard 100. And I can tell you, in 171 days, we did 100 million subscribers. The rest is history.
Yeah.
Today, I'm proud to say, with a lot of humility, that we have over 470 million subscribers in India who are broadband. And of the 470 million, we carry more data on our network than AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint all put together. And if you look at it, what else happened in India? It is this digital fabric that brought in the direct benefit transfer in India, as you know. And this is what that enabled removed the bureaucracy and enabled the technocracy, if you will. And the other part is cash to cashless. When everyone woke up in November 2016 one day, Mr. Modi made an announcement. 86% of the cash is going away. Basically, no more cash-based economy. I thought to myself, there's going to be a revolution of a different nature. But it didn't happen because Jio came along and made the connectivity happen. And I think that, again, with the pre-Jio, post-Jio effect, when pre-Jio, 80 to 82% of the phones were imported from outside. I can tell you in 2024, hardly 3% is imported from outside. It's all make in India and make for the rest of the world. So we are very privileged and proud of India and what Jio has been able to do.
Fantastic. And it's been and Mukesh does have this habit of suddenly tripling your targets and you have to actually deliver. George, you run a global company, and I want your perspective on India from three fronts. India as a lab, India as a market, India as a talent pool. How do you see those roles playing out in the context from where you sit?
First of all, thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'm honored to be here. I was in your shoes at another school many years ago, and I have fond memories of those times. So I wish you all a wonderful couple of years here at Kellogg. It's a beautiful campus and a beautiful location. We have operated in India for about 25 years now, and it is our largest development center. I think that we do cutting-edge work in India. It's no longer the days of where India was either a back office for the US firms, or it was where India was, mostly a services, based technology industry. There's real product development depth in India. We've invested for many years there. Many of our cutting-edge technologies, for example, the work that we're doing with Google around data and AI, the work that we're doing with some of the security companies around how do you protect, your data from malicious actors, is led out of India for the globe. And so I think the aspirations for India has to be that we have the opportunity and the talent to lead the rest of the world. And we should approach that with the right balance of confidence and humility, that we can learn from others, but also we can teach others. With regard to India as a talent pool, listen, you are the talent pool. It's a deep talent pool. It has got a strong bench of technical talent, and I'm very proud of the number of female technical leaders we have in our organization in India. It is the highest percentage of female technical talent in any part of the world. I'm proud of that, and I'm excited for that. And we have run one of the really successful accelerator programs where we mentor startup companies in India. And we've been excited to see at the last several cohorts, we've had an all-female cohort where 50 companies that we sponsor, we train and mentor them to build their business have been all female-led, and that's a source of great pride and good progress for points for India. With regard to India as a market, listen, it's our fastest growing market in Asia, and we expect it to be the largest market for us in Asia. It's strategically very well positioned, right? It is the single largest population and talent pool alongside China in the world. The rest of the world needs India to be successful to balance a increasingly strident China. It has a really good demographic profile. It has a commercial fabric that is easy to do business with. People understand it. There are legal rules, the rule of law that allows people to make investments in India, and I think it's very well positioned. I think as Mathew said, what has been particularly important for us has been the fact that the digital infrastructure is in place to reach the big part of India that previously could not be reached. I think if I were to share with you all, one observation, it is that there are plenty of technologies in the world. Even AI, while it's in its infancy, there are plenty of technologies. We know it, we're working with it, that can solve a lot of the problems of the world. But the real mission that I would ask you to think about as you head out into your careers is how do you bring that to the masses in India? And what has been profoundly important over the last decade is that we have a chance to bring the thousands and thousands of Indians who live in rural parts of India that historically never had access to the riches of the urban population now have a chance. And that's a moment of real pride. I know my parents would be particularly proud.
Fantastic. Well said. So Chinmay, you are with what I would call a next generation company, because we have seen the evolution of sort of the IT services industry, and it started out sort of with very basic and network maintenance and that sort of stuff. But you're getting deeply vertical. You have so talk to us about the evolution of your sector of that industry, and with a special lens on the automotive industry.
Absolutely.
Where you guys are leaders.
I think we kind of started with the wave, and when we were well on our path towards $1 billion, we kind of took a pause to figure out where do we want to go next, because just the headcount scale up, we had figured that game out, but that was not necessarily where we thought we'll have the most value. And a very important lesson we kind of absorbed in the process was focus, just ruthless focus. And we realized the edge in the automotive technology, this is about 7 years ago, was going to be something which was a relatively flat playing field for everybody. I mean, we had companies like Bosch who were doing diesel engine and gasoline engine for almost 100 years, and that was going to shift under them. And that allowed us, or companies like us, I should say, an ability to kind of punch above our weight. So we kind of dropped everything. We sold 60% of our business, which was not automotive, and just went deep automotive. And we said, we'll be the fastest to respond to technology, we'll be the best to scale, but we will also make significant investments in what we believe will be a space where we can also play. I mean, we kind of saw this when it comes to the lithium batteries. China had taken the game, right? There was nothing left to play. But we said hydrogen is going to be interesting. We said sodium battery is going to be interesting. And then using the Indian kind of technology centers, be it NCL or ICER, we came out with our own proprietary technology, which can address the problems in a very unique way. And that's where we keep investing. I think finding areas where things are going to go in flux and go deep from a technology point of view. And then we can scale, because we know how to scale very well.
Fantastic. And Debjani, that pivot, I want to also talk to you about sort of how NASSCOM has been guiding another pivot, and that is sort of the evolution of products, right? NASSCOM's product council and so on. Atul Batra is a good friend. So for a long time in the first phase, we were doing services, first IT services, then BPO, then KPO, or whatever you want to call it. But it was primarily India for the US, right? Now you're starting to see two new categories of solutions, which is India for India, right? Whether it's healthcare for 1 billion people or telecom for 1 billion people, and then India for the world. So talk to us about the potential of India for the world, but with a product lens.
First of all, I do believe that the lenses, the silos, products, and services is going to blur, and it's blurring pretty fast, right? So I personally sort of look at end-to-end, because that's where I see the biggest opportunity for India, given our expertise in services and given the huge, George talked about the talent, the young talent which doesn't know any fear. That's how I see Indian talent, right? And their ability to go out there and pretty much work on anything is, I think, what I believe is our biggest strength. So I sort of see the end-to-end play in India becoming tremendously important, and honestly, it can become a huge competitive advantage for the country, especially with technologies like artificial intelligence coming in. Right, and if a lot of these frontier technologies, whether it's artificial intelligence, blockchain, etc., they are gonna blur the lines even faster, right? So now you're seeing companies that are coming in, and I honestly don't know what to call them, product or services, I think, but they are coming in with pretty much a platform approach to solutions, right? And you have the product part of it, you have the services part of it. You're also seeing the big services company learning to dance differently. You're also seeing each one of them today is trying to figure out how to play in the product space. So this is, I think we're at a very interesting time where what was the norms of yesterday is not going to hold anymore. I think it's pretty much up to disruption and who disrupts faster. So from that perspective, I do see a lot of change happening. Talking about India for the world and India for India, I think our startups are going to take the leading role. They're going to be the frontliners to driving this change, honestly. And India has today around maybe 30,000 tech startups. And I'm not talking about startups that use apps. I'm talking about startups, when we say at NASSCOM, when we define a tech startup as a startup that is actually building a tech product or a tech solution, right, service. Of that 30,000, roughly around 1,000, 1,500 are deep tech that are truly working on deep tech technology solutions. And that's a very small number for India. Very, very small number for India. The quality of work is very good, but the number is still very small. And honestly, from a NASSCOM perspective, for me, that is job one. How do we take that up to maybe 10,000 by end of this decade? That we have to. We absolutely have to. And this is where I think the Indian ecosystem and mindset has to change. An average deep tech startup in India will get maybe a few million early stage funding. The same startup, and I've had so many founders come and tell me this, without making any changes, same startup, same founder, same team will come here and end up in billions in funding, right? So we have to figure out how to grow that ecosystem in India, which truly values development of IP. To me, that's the biggest change. We have to move towards IP in India, and we have to value IP in India. And when you think about IP, when you value IP, you will start thinking about how to create the ecosystem for it, how to bring in the funds, how to make it easy from a regulatory and all of that process to actually get IP in India, right? And I think those are some of the things which we really have to think about. That's, as NASSCOM, that's our biggest push to government. Whenever they come back or whoever comes back, that how do we ensure that these things get priority. We have actually worked with the government to create the deep tech policy for India, but now it needs to get implemented and implemented really fast. So yeah, I think for me, I would say the push is, or the focus is more towards we have to move from the earlier mindset to an IP-driven mindset.
Mathew, my students and I just came back from India. We were at a meeting together. And we visited several what I'd call India for India companies, Policy Bazaar, Blue Smart, MediBuddy, a bunch of other companies, including Geo, if you think about it. And I made the following observation. Each of these companies, in the form and with the products that they have selling in India, would not be viable in the United States. They would not work. That model would not work because they are uniquely Indian solutions for Indian problems. So talk to us about what it will take to solve problems, like we have done in telecom, at nation scale. X for $1 billion, education for $1 billion, agriculture for $1 billion, healthcare for $1 billion. And what will that, because I think we have some opportunities of scale, but what are those uniquely Indian problems and uniquely Indian solutions that you see at scale?
So I genuinely believe that India's strength continues to be, as like Debjani said, predominantly in the services sector. In the product sector, there is still huge potential that exists. When we talk about startups, since she mentioned startups, I think, and she will probably know the numbers a lot more than I do, we have invested about $75 billion in India in the last 2 years. And there is about 112,000 startups of that, to her point. About 30,000 are in the tech industry. And the products that we create, even when you look at AI as an example, though we would have created a lot of AI sitting in the back end or in the front end, sitting as Indians, sitting in the US, AI products are still predominantly using data that is non-Indian yet. Right. The LLMs that we look at are still non-Indian LLMs. Now, there is about a GPT. We are trying to follow through, right? How do we make innovation continue to be at the forefront for the new generation of products and solutions, I think is also important. So when we look at, in fact, when you look at AI, as when George is sitting next to me, another side thought comes to me is we say there is AI, there is Gen AI, there is objective AI, then there is AGI, then there is the guys called, Sora and things like that. But all of the AI has about 6-7 layers of fundamental building blocks. The most important is the infrastructure. Then there is the storage and the cloud associated with it, where the GPUs and all of that come. Between the two siblings, the George Kurian and the Thomas Kurian who sits in Google, these two guys control the infrastructure of AI, whether it is storage or whether it is compute. Now, I'm not sure about the other two brothers he has, what they do, but these two guys, that they do. So I think, to Professor Mohanbir's question, as individuals, we have done exceptionally well as individuals, but as product, I think sometimes just the same way when you look at products like LLMs, we need to create LLMs that are relevant for, if you look at languages, they say there is 11 main languages, some say it's 23 main languages, but at the end, we've got 117, 118 different dialects in India, right? All of this requires a new type of refinery. They say when you ride Geo the other way, if you spin it around or mirror it, you will see it's oil. They say data is the new oil, so we need an AI refinery, right? So maybe AI is the solution for India. Why I say that? AI takes supposedly a lot of ingested data and make insights, make it meaningful, make it the best product and the platforms, right? So I think the opportunity for AI and opportunity for next generation of products for India is a lot more than the past generation of products. Because India historically has been a services place, but the new India is no longer a services place. I think the new India is an IPR space, and new India is an innovation space, and it is changing. Look at space as an industry. Frugal India, frugal innovation is what space happened in India, right? I mean, we did it with some of the size of a Hollywood movie, right? We sent people to the moon, or that is coming, people to the moon. But space
We explored the dark side
landing
of the
in
moon.
the south part of moon, right?
Yeah.
So I think AI and the innovation power of India is a lot different than the past. So I believe we might not have taken the full understanding of a global economy and the global requirements yet, because we were more inward forcing, but that is not the new India. And the new India, you're going to see a lot more global players come outside.
That's fantastic. And when you mentioned the LLM space, Mathew, sort of two things just boggle my mind. That when you crawl the web, the percentage of content that LLMs train on that is Hindi is 0.17%.
Yep.
Right? And 1.1 billion people speak the language. So the training data isn't there. And the tokenization tax on Hindi is 300%.
Huge.
In Odia, it is 600%, which means it takes 6 times the compute power to query the LLM model. So that's what Sarvam and Bharat GPT and all are about. So we will need these solutions. We have the horsepower. We have to translate it. Chinmay, Elon is on his way to India next week. So I made an observation about the automotive industry in India, on the EV space, right? That the revolution in India in EV will come on any number of wheels except 4. Right? 2 wheels, 3 wheels, and 6 wheels.
Yes.
But he's out there selling 4 wheels.
Yes.
Tell us about the EV business in India.
Tatas have done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I think he has to work harder to displace them. What we're going to see is the aging of the product will speak very loudly in India. I think the top end of the market, which is what he's going to focus on, they see the latest and greatest from everywhere in the world. Now Tesla is not that. So I think that's going to be something which has to be really thought through.
It's a 3-letter acronym that bothers him. BYD.
Yeah. So, I think the China angle is going to be tricky. So we'll figure out. And what JSW has done is very interesting. So we'll see some of that playing out. But I think it's a welcome addition to the market because we definitely need to continuously get better. And from a core technology point of view, there is some unbeaten advantage Tesla definitely continues to have. So I think it's going to be very interesting. It's a welcome play, but it's going to be a harder battle than any other market they have played in.
I'm visualizing a full self-driving in Bhojpuri, navigating around bullock carts and temples. So let's see how that works.
That's why we need those 300 million gods.
Yeah, and those gods are on the road. They're not moving for you. Right.
But I'm very intrigued to see whether he's really going to come there to sell his EVs or Starlink. I have a
very interesting
suspicion.
Well, we met with Mr. Somnath when we were in India, and when he said that we don't have just the geopolitics will never allow India to be a credible player for the U.S. companies in launching commercial satellites.
Yeah.
For the same reason, I don't think we're going to hand over satellites to him. And if anybody else, I think we have some plans.
I know. I was looking at him for his reaction.
We demonstrated to the Prime Minister just geospace. And what was the bandwidth we were getting?
More than 1.5 gig.
From a satellite.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It was the first gigabit space link given in India,
yeah.
not outside of India.
And we launched our satellites through ISRO at 1/10 the cost.
Yeah.
We'll get there. So, George, you talked about the cutting edge work that you're doing in India. Tell us about the talent pool, because when India crossed China in population, the comment that the Communist Party had was, "But we've got quality. You've got raw material." So, particularly as you talk about cutting edge areas, data science, AI, analytics, what is the quality and quantity of the talent, and what can we do to enhance it?
I think, first of all, when I look at the Indian talent pool, it is deep. It's increasingly self-confident. You look at the Indian diaspora, they lead the tech industry, they lead a lot of industries around the world. And so the original thesis that was that Indians are good technically, but not capable of being leaders, I think that's past. A generation that has come forward has changed that myth and replaced it with, we can compete with anybody in the world so long as we are humble, hungry, and work hard, right? I think that has come and gone. I think if you look at some of these areas of cutting edge technology, they are a deficit across the globe. I think we had a visit yesterday in Silicon Valley from one of the leading edge foundry companies from Japan, which is working on 2 nanometer chips. Wow. And the process technology has evolved to a place where the original models of semiconductor packaging and design no longer work because you are so narrow in terms of your lithography. And so there's new ways to develop it, and it's kind of an exciting time and also scary time. Is one of the things that the CEO said was, hey, my talent pool is from a lot of different Japanese and American and Asian companies, rather than the old model of everybody was from a lifetime Japanese company. And we've got 45 and 50-year-old people having to rethink all of the rules of what they did before, which actually in some ways makes it a level playing field. So people said, I had an experience curve that gave me an advantage over somebody else. No longer has that, right? And so I think there is that opportunity. I think advanced data science is that data engineering and data science is at a skill set shortage across the globe. We, for example, have invested in a program around the world to teach kids in middle school how to learn about data science. And we've got lots of people helping with that. And I think it's really nice to see these young little kids learning the tools of data science very early in their careers. So I think it's kind of going to be many years of people investing and learning. I would tell you one of the other things that we see as an opportunity that India has that a lot of other parts of the world don't have is the richness of data that India has, right? I think if you look at, for example, life sciences, which is a transformational opportunity for a large population like India, which in its rural locations has much less access to capable healthcare, there are profoundly important steps forward that can be made, both in the affordability of drugs and biosimilar medicines that could be manufactured very quickly in India. We are engaged in those industries here, and we keep saying it should be easy for Indians to do that. And then I think the second is, if you remove the noise of India being 17 different populations, but actually look at it as there is one large population with a lot of common themes. Some of the ideas that we see going on in the Nordic countries, for example, can really be profoundly enhanced bringing it to India around large data sets, the ability to bring genomic level understanding of populations so that you can precision tailor medicine and substantially lower the cost of administering those medicines. So I think that there's an IP opportunity like Debjani and Mathew talked about, and then there's a data opportunity that is yet untapped. And I think if I look at the West versus China, if you make it a competition, which in some ways it isn't actually, the advantage the Chinese have is they have a lot of data.
Yeah. And I think that is really well said. That, and I can unify all the comments in the following way, that AI and software are creating a new level playing field. And on that level playing field, you'll need talent. And that talent will have to create intellectual property. And one thing that I think you said very insightfully, George, that when you have 1.4 billion people, India is also the largest source of data for the world. Right? If there is no Hindi content to train LLMs, we can put 100 million people on the job to write random stuff that we can train LLMs on. Right? Imagine how many CT scans we could create with a billion people. We are the world leaders in cardiovascular disease and diabetes, so we can, so we can create. We have a lot of data on cardiovascular disease and diabetes, right? So that is an untapped, and in fact, that will be a very interesting question for the government, Debjani, is how do we shepherd this data asset, and how do we do that in a responsible way and protect the privacy of those?
So, just a few weeks back, Indian government came out with the AI mission, the India AI mission. The good part of it, it came out with a budget. It wasn't just an announcement. It came with the monies, right? And if you look at the 7 pillars that the mission calls out, the first one, of course, is to ensure we have adequate compute in country to meet the needs of our development. Not just development, but also a large part of the startups and companies will actually not get into building from scratch, but they'll be building vertical agents and vertical solutions. So a lot of inferencing, fine-tuning that will need to happen, right? So it's very well thought out, like what will be the compute landscape and what is needed. The second part of it, I love the way it's thought through. It's not just model build out, but it's model innovation. So yes, there will be a Bharat GPT, which by the way, the IITs, around 7 or 8 of the IITs have already got together, and they have done some phenomenal work in building the base. And I think now with government saying we will fund you or we will support you, they can go much faster. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Reliance is part of it. They have helped them initially, right, to come to the stage they are, where the first LLM that was launched was Hanuman. Pretty cool, and supporting some multiple Indian languages, etc. Then the third part of it is data. And it's not just about making data available, because while India is data rich, we are also very data starved, because the data sits in silos and it is locked. So I think the biggest ask was, how do you unlock the data? And that's going to be a huge focus under this by key verticals. Not just how do you unlock the data, but we also have to rethink about data access in the world of not just large language models, but large action models and whatever comes next. How do you make the data available? And then, of course, a large part of it is startups, where government has committed to fund startups in AI. Safe, responsible use of AI, etc., etc. So it's actually a very well thought through, and I was very reassured because it came out with budgets. There's a very good set of people working on it. So yeah, I think we're getting pretty serious about our AI game plan.
You know what is interesting is that on our observation, the meeting with industry, is that when I grew up, there was only one thing we talked about the government and bureaucrats. We criticized them. Because they were always the barrier. And now, with one voice, we hear from the industry that the government is ahead of us. The RBI has an innovation hub, which we visited.
Yeah.
Imagine the Fed having an innovation hub where they do startups, right? And they have some of the MobiQuick's founder told us. She says when the RBI sends their audit teams, the regulator sends their audit teams, not the RBI but the regulator. They are highly skilled. He said they come and do our audits better than our internal people can do. So regulators, bureaucrats, I know India has lots of problems, corruption and so on, but that digital public infrastructure, that sort of whole foundation that has been laid, it's a very forward-looking regulatory regime, and I think that we should give the government credit for what the bureaucrats and the regulators.
It's not just regulation, right? If you think about DPI, government's job was not to regulate.
Yeah, no, they had to innovate. They had to build.
They built the basic. I mean, first Geo came in and made internet available everywhere, every
but
part of the
Geo
country.
would not have. We would not have been. We were doing 50,000 KYCs a day. Right, and then with Aadhaar, we were in e-KYC. We immediately went to 5 million a day.
For me, it was serendipity, right? Because all the different pieces suddenly very beautifully
everything
came together.
Fit together,
right?
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. I mean, you talked about scale. I don't think any country has achieved population scale deployment other than India, where literally every person in the ecosystem, and we are talking 1.4 billion people, have access to a digital identity.
Yeah.
And because of that, have access to financial inclusion,
and
wallets,
DBT, direct benefit. In fact, on my conversation with Nandan, he said that the total investment in Aadhaar was 1 billion that the government put in. In the first year, they saved 7 billion on DBT fraud reduction because government payments were going to dead people and so on. So anyway, but maybe we have time for a couple of really insightful and short questions.
Perfect.
You can just stand up and ask a question.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. Anudeep here. All of you spoke about the importance of India starting to generate intellectual property and patents. Now, if we talk about the core tenets of patents, they are novelty, creativity, and feasibility. Now, India is widely considered to be the land of jugaad, but when we talk about patent applications, we have China at 1.6 million and India at close to about 60K. What do you think are the top 2 or 3 things that India should start focusing on or doing to bump up this number?
Debjani, you want to take that? And then maybe Mathew, tell us if we've got any patents at Geo.
So, for a few questions. First of all, no apologies for the jugaad that we do. I do not agree we are the land of jugaad, but I absolutely do not apologize for jugaad innovation because that is what allows millions and billions of people to get access to technology and solutions which they would have never been able to. So think about the Teslas of the world who are not doing jugaad, doing the best of innovation, but it impacts a few thousand people. Right? So I do not apologize for jugaad innovation at all, or I do not apologize for any innovation that allows population scale deployment first, right? Second, I think we find it very easy to sort of paint India in one brush today, and words like jugaad or this becomes very fancy and whatever to use. You really have to see the kind of innovation that is happening in India. And by the way, just before coming here a few weeks back, Mathew, I was at Geo Innovation Center. I was blown away with the kind of innovation that I was seeing in 5G. Spend time at KPIT, right? The kind of innovation that they are doing, and I'm just taking these examples because they are here, right? And there's just so much world-class innovation that is going on in Indian companies for India and the world. And I think all of us have to be honest enough to acknowledge it and acknowledge what is good, and not sort of paint everything in one picture. That's my request to all of you because you're the voices of India, right? You represent India at a global level. So while absolutely there are things that may not work or whatever, but we should be very proud of what is going well. So that's what I would say. And I think India is going to always have some level of jugaad innovation because it is needed, given the complexities of our population, but I also think we are at the same time we are doing world-class innovation out of India.
In fact, Mathew, I'm just so eager for them to hear what the heck we've done with air fiber, what have we done with 5G, and how that represents fundamental innovation.
Perfect. First of all, I think it's good to hear your question. Correct. And I think There is no place on the planet where innovation is happening at the scale
Yeah.
that India it's happening. I think it's very important to know. Few things. No place on the planet will you see the Prime Minister of a nation come and inaugurate the 5G rollout of a country. Now, we always come behind, and we have a history of coming from behind. We came from behind, we put stuff on the moon, in my view, at the lowest cost. That is frugal innovation. I don't know if it's jugaad innovation, but it's frugal innovation. And we can afford to do that, and I think we do that well. We had invited to Debjani's view all the industry leaders to our campus a couple of weeks ago. I was not there during that day, but we gave them a show of what we have done as innovation. Like I said, October 22nd is when the Prime Minister inaugurated 5G at the India Mobile Congress. 156 operators across the world had already launched 5G. And I'm not going to get into the nuances because 5G could mean many Gs or many perspectives to many people. December 23rd, we were India, the largest 5G standalone deployment anywhere on the planet, with 1.1 million 5G cells deployed, and during the peak deployment, Jio was deploying 10 5G cells every second. That was the scale which Jio was deploying. Now, let me also tell you, today on our network of 470 million subscribers, more than 115 million subscribers are 5G SA subscribers. Why SA? That's a longer conversation. It's called standalone. It is a next generation of 5G. So ask me, find out if there is any 5G deployment that is only 5G SA in the United States, and the answer is no. And by the way, the core of the 5G SA network, which is like your brain, is a complete 100% innovation of Jio. Just so that you know, the 100% IPR, many IPRs filed, and it is not Ericsson, it is not Nokia, it is not Samsung, and I'm not mentioning the two Chinese guys. But out of the three guys, I can tell you, it was 100% Jio 5G core. To Professor Mohanbir's point, the ARPU in India is $2 to $3. Our EBITDA is more than 50% for Jio. We are not a money-losing company. We are a money-making company. That innovation, that jugaad, let me tell you, is very important. When companies lose money, it's good to make money. And let me also tell you the cost of delivering broadband. Nowhere on the planet have I seen $86 billion doled out in the name of broadband other than the United States. Why is that? There is RDOF, that is Rural Development Fund. There is BEAD, Broadband Enablement Development Fund. BEAD is about $46 billion. RDOF is about $20 billion. Then, of course, ACP, which is the funding in the US, is coming to almost a close. There's totally about $86 billion. Why it is important is, gentlemen and ladies, and there are about 51 million homes of the 110 million homes in the United States that still don't have so-called broadband. And what is definition of broadband? It used to be 25 Mbps in the US. Now it is 100 Mbps down and 25 Mbps up. FCC changed the rules. You go, say I have a home in Plano, Texas. You go 20 miles north, one of the fastest growing cities in the United States is a place called Aubrey. You cannot get connection. And you come to India, I will prod you. You will not get a voice drop in 99% of the case. In the US, the chances of 50% of the United States being a developed nation, having a call drop and no coverage is very, very, very high. That to me in itself is innovation. Cost of doing business. We have created a technology that is not the typical FWA. So FWA is the fixed wireless access everyone is talking about. T-Mobile is growing, Verizon is growing. AT&T says it's not growing, but it is growing supposedly because they have not done well as compared to T-Mobile and Verizon. The cost of delivering that FWA is about, if the cost of getting your FWA in your home for that unit is about $200, and your monthly service is somewhere in the US between $35 and $85, depending upon where you are. $35 if you have 2 other lines, otherwise $55 and $85 for your FWA connection, to be precise, because we keep pace of the check of our competitive position even in the US. Our cost of FWA is, compared to that $200, is about $25 to $28. That's a local innovation that we have done, and we are very proud of that. And with that innovation, we've also told India, that has got today about 290 million homes, we will target of the 130, 140 million of that homes in the next 3 years, using that, our own technology.
All right. In the interest of time, we will have to draw this fascinating discussion to a. You'll allow one more question? He's the boss, man. So I have to do this then. Okay. My only rule last time is only a lady can ask a question.
There she is. Yeah, I saw her hand up.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am. Oh, there. Okay. Possession is 9/10, so you got to get mic.
Hi, I'm Ritika. I'm from the University of Illinois. And I wanted to know, since we're talking about emerging technologies, do you see a scope for extended reality and virtual reality in India?
You want to take?
Yeah, you can take that.
I'm sorry, I'm doing most of the talking, but I'll just tell you, the cost of a Quest device in the US is considerable. Let's leave it there. 1/10 the cost of a Quest VR XR technology, I'm consciously not using AR, will be available towards the end of this year in India, made by Jio.
I'm assuming everyone knows cricket, right? And IPL? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So IPL, they're
Rajasthan Royals won today, by the way.
One of the most fascinating things we saw in IPL were these incredible glasses, again at the Jio Demo Center, which gives you you sit with it in your room and you just have that, and it's a complete 360 view of the game. Right? So, which is, imagine India, imagine our love for cricket, and then imagine something which is available that allows you to do that, right? So, yeah,
And by the way, when the Mumbai Indians were playing, I think it was 3-4 matches ago, they give the number on up. There were 31 crore, 310 million simultaneous streams, 4K with 8 camera angles, including the hero cam, where you can follow one player like Virat around.
Yeah.
The scale that we are that we are doing, nobody has done streaming at that level, and we think what do we think we're going to hit for the IPL final?
So, I'm going to help Professor Mohanbir just a minute. There was 300 million total viewers, 32 million concurrent. Just clear. And Super Bowl had about 1.9 to 2.1 million, just to give you a comparison. And the biggest point, and by the way, I am so thankful to Ms. Debjani becoming our anchor, promoter, and advocate for it. Debjani, I want to thank you for that. And for advocacy for India and its technology. Not Jugaad technology, but real good technology. And by the way, our cinema, geo-cinema, to Professor Mohanbir's point, is a 360-degree view, immersive experience.
Yeah.
And you can download and see that as well. And we play, Mumbai Indians play Chennai Super Kings tomorrow.
All right. Well, I know we have many more questions, but we will have to sort of conclude this here. But I hope that you all share the optimism, the enthusiasm, the depth and breadth and the scale of the innovation that's happening. And this really is Bharat 2.0, reinventing India's future. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. Pandit, come on in.
No, come.
Hey guys, we'll be starting the next session right away. There's no break right now.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Take care. Say hi to
Yeah.
Shivendra.
Professor. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Nice to meet you.
Johnny, I will see you.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
you. I just want